Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Mattis. I am going to be your AIM host for this session. As you're coming into the session, feel free to use the chat to talk back and forth. I know that things are a little different hosting a conference virtually, so we don't get to just have those normal conversations that we have as we come into a breakout session. So please feel free to use the chat. And I will be here in the background making sure, in case there's any technical hiccups, to address those. And we will start at 11 a.m. with the internship panel. So please feel free, use the chat. There's about 10 minutes before the next session starts. So if you want to get up, move around, head into the expo booths, do some one-on-one networking, now would be an excellent time to do so. I know that we have the lunch break coming up at 11:45 after this next round of sessions, but please feel free to get up and move around and do some networking before this next session starts at 11 a.m. Hi, everyone. As you're coming in today, I am Emily Mattis. I'm going to be your AIM host. As soon as things get started, I will jump off the screen. You won't have to worry about it, but I'll be here in the background in case any technical difficulties pop up. I'll be able to address them as we're moving through things. As you get settled into this session, please feel free to use the chat to ask questions, to converse among each other, to make connections. We're really excited to have this great panel joining us today. So please feel free to ask them questions and utilize them for the time that they're presenting this morning. At the end of the session, I will post in the chat a survey for you guys to fill out to give us some feedback about this particular session. I will probably pop back on to give you guys a reminder to fill that out. But at the end of the session, we do, please ask for your guys' feedback. It helps to make sure that we are giving you guys the content that you really want during this conference, and to give our presenters a little bit of feedback on sort of how the event went today. All right, everyone, it is 11 o'clock. As I said before, I'm Emily Mattis with the AIM Institute. I'm your AIM host today, but I will not be moderating the session. Instead, Bob Herrera is here to moderate this excellent discussion. We are so happy to have everyone on this panel here to join us. And with that, if issues arise, I'm here. Don't worry, I'm just not going to be on the screen, so you don't even need to shout me out. I'll be on top of it. And I will let this panel take it away.
Great. Thank you, Emily. And thanks, everyone, for joining us. I'll have the panelists introduce themselves in just a minute. I wanted to first share a few slides on Nebraska Tech Collaborative. So let me walk through that with you. So hopefully you all know about Nebraska Tech Collaborative. Going through the mission statement here. And as you can read, it's really a collaborative process that we're working with multiple entities, and the sole goal is to develop, retain, and attract talent and entrepreneurs. And it's going to take a lot of us. It's not just a few people. It really is going to take everyone from across the state. And as far as the primary goals, I'd highlight the goals that they've established. And with the first one on growing tech talent by 10,000 in 2025, you'll see where the internship discussion that we're going to have is really going to have a big factor into that. And I would also indicate with the diversity as well, given the candidates that we're seeing coming through the pipeline. And then you see the other two goals that we have listed on this slide as well. There are several committees that are part of NTC, and they're listed on the slide here. Again, our focus is going to be on internships, but you'll see that there's a lot of other good talent, or a lot of good activity that's happening in some of the other areas on the screen. Want to highlight the leadership group, John Van Doon, president of NTC, Mike Castling, and then Sandra Redding. Those are the three folks that are responsible for NTC. The next slide shows all of the partners that are currently assigned to NTC that are supporting the efforts. Would definitely encourage any of you, if you're not already involved, to get involved. And with that, we'll jump right into introductions. If you wouldn't mind starting, Jessica, with the introductions.
Absolutely. So I'm Jessica Schumacher. I am with Nelnet. I am a People Services Program Manager. So essentially what I get the privilege of doing is working on growing our campus recruiting team as well as our internship program. We have had an established internship program for about 5 years now, and we have continued to see growth locally and nationally as well. So I'm excited to share some of the knowledge that we have specifically with this. I'll use the word unprecedented year because that's kind of the buzzword now.
All right, Patrick, you're up.
Sure thing. My name is Patrick Wolff. I work for Farm Credit Services of America. I work in our business technology department. I had spent a lot of my career working in application development and recently moved over to the data team. So I lead one of our only data integration team. Over the years, I've worked pretty closely with our technology internship teams and sponsor our internship program with a focus in the technology. So we take a pretty cool approach to internship teams and really create teams that are really full of interns with a lot of support and leadership and mentorship. So that team really gets to work with each other to build solutions. And this year we are splitting that focus into two. So we'll have two intern teams, one data focused and one software focused. I also work with our Rakes sponsorship. So this is our second year sponsoring the Rakes Design Studio program, and we are primarily this year and last year focused on machine learning projects there. So, thanks.
All right, Kyle.
Everyone, I'm nervous about my mic. Is it coming through okay? Great.
Yep.
It's a new mic. I'm Kyle Murphy. I'm the Vice President of People and Corporate Communications at Hudl. I've been there 12 going on 13 years, and I actually started my career at Hudl as an intern. So I've seen every step of the process from beginning to end, and it's a program that we're really proud of. I'm excited to share some of the information of what's been working for us and what we've been trying to improve with it. But we have obviously a really big technical cohort of interns that comes in over the summer, but we actually have year-round, a steady state of 20, 30, often 40 interns that are filling business critical roles for us. And so we lean on that team and those people a lot. So excited to share with you all some of what we've learned with it.
Great. Thanks, everyone. My name is Bob with Mutual of Omaha. I've been at the company for a long time, 34 years. Started as an entry-level programmer, have held a variety of roles, and I'm very active in the internship community. Work very closely with our intern program, and then work closely with our HR partners on the overall corporate internship program. Anyway, we've got some good information to share with all of you, so I'd like to jump right in. And I love that as questions come up, we'll try to address them as they come. And so it's going to be a little informal, but at the same time, we're going to try to cover some ground with all of you. And so I'd like to throw this out to the panel for the first topic. Why are internships important to your organization? Why even bother? What matters about it? So anyone can jump in.
Sure, I can get us started. For us, we see it really as a talent pipeline for the company. We may not have looked at it that way when we first started doing this, maybe 8-10 years ago. We thought it was more just kind of giving back to the tech community. But as we've figured out ways to bring those students on and join the teams full time after they graduate, we're seeing that the talent is just pretty amazing, and we're learning that the students are coming out really strong, really eager to just dive in and contribute. So some of our best employees we have come through that internship program. The other thing that we see value in is the mentorship opportunities that come with when we're building those intern teams, and we surround them with our full-time teammates. It's really a good growth and development experience for the full-time teammates. And then we also usually select a full-time teammate who has leadership aspirations to then lead that group. And so it gives them an amazing opportunity to demonstrate their leadership and helps them with future opportunities within the company. And that's actually a role that I took on a few years ago and really helped me demonstrate leadership within this company and really helped me get to the position that I'm in now.
Kyle or Jessica, anything else to add?
I'll build on Patrick's point about the pipeline. I think we turns about 50% of them into full-time employees. So, I mean, that's a huge chunk of new people coming into the organization every year. We treat our interns like we don't have much distinction in how the expectations we have from work quality and work product from interns when they're coming in. So we're treating them like in full-time employees. Most of the time, putting them on in our product internships, they're on the squads with our full-time engineers, full-time QA, full-time PM designers, et cetera. So, and they're contributing code that's going to production, that's helping coaches and athletes win around the world. So it's critical for us. I'd also point out that we see, when you compare and contrast our intern cohorts with the broader representation of women and underrepresented groups at Hudl, our interns are doing, those cohorts are more diverse. And so if we're looking at how do we keep that pipeline going and growing it at Hudl, like it's going to start in a lot of cases with our internship program and seeing what's working there, what's connecting there, and then how are we bringing those people into the organization so they can improve our representation broadly at Hudl.
I don't really have much to add to what Patrick and Kyle mentioned. They hit the nail on the head. Anything else, Jessica, before we move on to the next topic?
I think the only other thing that I would like to throw out there, in addition to what Patrick and Kyle have said, is we use our interns to work on special projects because I think all of us can say that we probably have issues or ideas within the organization that we've had full-time associates stare at for a few months, maybe a couple years, depending on what it is. And you throw that idea or that issue at a group of interns, and the way they look at things is so wildly different. Their innovation and their research, their problem-solving skills is really outside the box from what a lot of full-time associates think. So that's been another benefit that we've had with our internship program. We've even given them seasonal projects now. So we have one every quarter where we're just like, hey, this is something that's going on right now. You fix it. You tell us what to do. And the way that has changed the way our organization looks at issues and thinks about things has been very surprising and overwhelmingly well recepted by the rest of the organization.
Can't emphasize that enough. I think Patrick alluded to, maybe all of us were in that same boat of it was more from a community support, the right thing to do as a company, but our interns are producing at a level that has exceeded, in many cases, our managers' expectations. And so this is definitely extending your talent pool by using an intern. And so if you're not involved, I would highly, highly encourage that you do it. Okay, we're going to move on to the next topic. And this is one that I think will be very close to everyone's thoughts. How did we change this past year with COVID? And what were some of the steps that you all took? And how was your leadership group in providing support? I'd like to start by maybe chiming on this one, and then feel free to jump in, please. So we were waiting for the company to make a decision. And at one time in the spring, we weren't sure if we were going to have an internship program. And then lo and behold, senior management came back to us and said, not only can you hold it virtually, but we'd like you to increase the number of folks that you're getting ready to make offers to. We had about 10 to 15 additional candidates that were waiting to hear back. We already had the 25 or 30 that we had already committed to. And when we heard that not only were they going to allow us to have it, but also to increase the number, that spoke volumes to us. And so then we said, we got this. We'll figure it out. And off we went. And of course, we didn't know what we were doing, but we didn't tell senior management that. We just said, we'll figure it out. We're in IT. We're smart people. We'll figure it out. And so I can't thank Mutual of Omaha's management team enough, both on the corporate side and within IS, for trusting us to hold the program. Anyone else want to?
I'll piggyback, Bob. We had a very similar experience this year. We had never questioned whether we were going to have a program, but very early on, after numerous emails and reach outs from students who had unfortunately lost their summer position or travel abroad experience or whatever they were going to do, our leadership said, yeah, let's bring them here. So we ended up hiring another 24 interns. We brought on 78 interns this summer. We have 93 with us now, so it has continued to grow. But in reference to your question, what changed? It's kind of like what didn't change. Almost everything that we did, all of the fun events that we had in person, all of the recruitment, that we had planned, everything obviously went virtual. And so that offered up a number of different challenges, but also a number of different opportunities. We were able to recruit from schools that we had never considered before or never been before. And for the foreseeable future, all of our internships will have that remote aspect, which has really allowed us to focus, to Kyle's point, more on some of the diversity and inclusion efforts that we have been wanting to for a while. It was just kind of a push in that direction since we were able to at this point. So it has been an interesting year, and we have had challenges, but it's been overwhelmingly successful. And just the pride that our organization has for its interns, and conversely the interns' pride for working with our organization to be nimble and agile and just willing to help them out, that has really made the difference.
Yeah, for us, not a whole lot changed. Everything went virtual. And so we rolled with it just like we were rolling with it with our full-time teammates. We did take on a couple additional interns that there were students that we had worked with in the past that had their internships fall out from under them and were looking for a home. And so we brought in a couple of interns at the last minute, but we didn't actively pursue recruiting additional interns or anything like that. Yeah, that was the main change for us. For us, we only do a summertime internship. We don't do year round or during the fall or spring semesters. We are considering expanding into that, but for us, we had already had our summer intern teams established and selected, and were onboarded, and so it was just a matter of making sure they got the laptops and just work with them, just like everyone else was working from home. So.
All right, I'd like to keep us moving. So, and again, the panelists know they can always interrupt me. I'm in, so they always can override whatever I suggest. You know that. So, what did you have to change immediately to get the internships moving? That's something that, especially for folks that are thinking about trying to start something in 2021, but maybe are a little hesitant. Can you give them any advice on maybe some things that they might want to start thinking about now, so that they're not like we were, where we were kind of scrambling after March 13th or March 14th, whatever that magic date was for all of you, where we quickly had to pivot. Any suggestions on what they might want to think about?
Yeah, I mean, consider your offers and your benefits. A lot of times this is happening with full-time positions too, but we had traditionally provided housing for our summer interns, especially those that were coming in from out of state, from other campuses. And so that's not something we're doing right now. So what are those pitch points? If you're, recruiting talented interns, they'll oftentimes have to have multiple offers on the table if it's a technical internship. So you got to be out there recruiting and closing those people, and make sure your benefits, your intern benefits and your intern experience that you're going to be providing, that you're thinking that through in advance, which, we were reactive when COVID happened, but that's something we're going to be more proactive with now. So that's pretty much it. We had to deal with a lot of logistical challenges, like how do you get your interns the equipment that they need, like laptops and accounts and other things set up when that's all happening remote. But obviously we're working through those things, but it's a different experience when it's an intern versus somebody who's maybe got a little bit more experience in their career and kind of knows that these are hoops that they'll inevitably have to jump through. If it's a first time intern who's having their first professional experience at a company, like, you'll have to do a little bit more work to make sure they get onboarded and set up correctly.
Great point, because sometimes they're like, we don't know what to expect. So you have to provide it to them so that they have a good experience. One thing that I would mention also with Mutual anyway, we pitched doing virtual desktop images and not dealing with equipment. We thought that would be the quickest way to spin an intern up. And for the most part, it went well. There were a few instances where they either had an older laptop, but in most cases they had better equipment than we did, or they had different issues that didn't allow them to work as efficiently as they could. And so then we were shipping laptops out to the individuals that needed them. But I think for 2021, if we get the green light, we will probably be sending all of our interns corporate issued laptops just to eliminate the issue with having to try to support people on all kinds of operating systems and various types of hardware. So a big issue that I would definitely recommend to all of you to consider. The other thing that, with housing not being on the table, because we also provided housing as well, it opens up, like Jessica, I think, had mentioned, to recruit from across the U.S. It's been great from that standpoint. And we tell them, we don't care where you are from, as long as you have a strong internet connection. And beyond that, we're good. Anyone else want to?
I think one of the things that may get overlooked pretty easily, but has been a challenge and something that we have had to be super intentional about and has been ever evolving is just start thinking about how you're going to engage with interns, keep them engaged, keep open lines of communication, make sure that, they know their expectations. I know that it seems easy, but when you're in it and you find that you're not walking past their desk every day and you're not necessarily having those one-off conversations where you'd have in the office. It has just been something that we have experienced challenges in. We all know what Zoom fatigue is. We're all feeling it ourselves. So you have to take into consideration also that you're working with students who may be going to school virtually, doing their homework virtually. Now they're going to be working virtually. So I think that's one thing that I would really start planning, events to engage them, or just how are you going to keep them happy virtually, and also be able to show them what your culture is like and make them feel, warmly welcomed like they would have in the office.
Points. These are all things to consider, because it is different, and you do lose that face-to-face connectivity and being able to walk by somebody's desk, or vice versa, having them walk by your desk to talk with you. So you really do have to take an extra step there. So just can't emphasize that enough. I think that leads in well to what lessons learned did we all come through this past summer. I know we had some, but I'm going to let some of you chime in, and hopefully I can just say, yeah, ditto. We ran to the same thing, but we ran to a few lessons. So anyone care to start?
I don't think we really learned any lessons with our intern teammates that we didn't learn with our full-time teammates, coming down to Zoom fatigue and finding, time to just touch base on that more personal, fun level. But it was a lot of the same things that our full-time teammates were going through with just making sure we had time to socialize. So we would schedule, time every Friday for a happy hour and things like that, doing virtual team outings. So we had some that were like virtual escape rooms. We did a virtual beer and food pairing tasting session with the folks down at the Crescent Moon. So they put together some really cool stuff for us that we got to pick up and then personally deliver to each student. So that was kind of nice to be able to see them face to face, even if it was kind of through their front screen door, drop it off on the front doorstep. But yeah, those were the things we added to just try to have some fun and take a break from the Zoom, even though the virtual outings still just end up being on Zoom still. But that's all we really had.
We braced for, I was feeling like I was bracing for impact because we had never really done remote internships. Our company is a global company, and we have been doing remote for a really long time. So we felt organizationally prepared when the pandemic hit and everyone was on Zoom, because that was normal at Hudl beforehand. However, the idea of 50 interns from all over the country also being remote alongside that, I think we were a little nervous. What we learned was that we shouldn't have been nervous, because they were just as productive and awesome as everyone else. So like, they rolled in, and in some cases, Jessica, you mentioned this, taught us new things about better ways of working that we hadn't considered before. And so we learned a lot from the fact that we had that cohort in those groups working remotely alongside everybody too. So it was like a pleasant surprise to see how productive and awesome, and the standards that they kept. And there was no issue with the work quality or people being absent or anything of those back of the mind fears you might have about, interns working remotely.
I saw that as well. I think I can attribute that a little bit to, since all the students had to go remote in many cases with their college, they were already working through that issue. And then we added the summer internship on top of that. And I think by then they were in a much better state than we were, because we were expecting the worst, and they really went very smoothly into the transition. The only thing that I wish we would have done differently is we didn't check in with them right away. And we had a few of our interns who were struggling that first, I'd say, 2 to 3 days up to a week, because they didn't want to say anything because they were new. It was their first internship and they didn't want to rock the boat. And we told them, no, you need to speak up if you're having an issue, whether it's with one of the coordinators or with your hiring manager or your mentor. You don't want to just, chalk it up to, well, that just must be how it is at Mutual. And so I would definitely encourage you to check in with them early and often, and then that way you can maybe minimize any disruptions. Anything else before we move on to the next topic?
So one thing real quick that I just thought of, and I don't know if this happens previous years or not, but we noticed that the interns throughout the whole company ended up connecting with each other more often. I think just because it was just the norm to be online, and so those barriers weren't in place. So and by barriers, I mean like physical distance. So typically we have interns that are here in Omaha, and then we've got interns kind of scattered throughout the Midwest at different locations. And so they spend most of their time just interfacing with the folks out in their work locations. But we found that they on their own were getting, kind of the intern teams chat going on. And so they were connecting more often with other interns that they probably wouldn't normally have in the past. And that seemed to be a really nice thing for them.
Here. Okay. What changes are any of you making to your program going into 2021? Are there any changes from this past year that you're thinking about incorporating?
I think we're just planning on carrying over everything that we've been doing this past fall into next year. I mean, depending on what you read or who you listen to, the outlook for 2021 so far looks very similar to what we've been doing for the past 6 months. So we are planning fully remote internships. For those, we are telling candidates, if you are in the area of one of our offices across the country, you will have the opportunity to work in the office if you want to, and if we're at that point. But as of right now, we're planning on still having everything be virtual, everything be remote, and just hoping to continue building upon that, because this will be a very large aspect of not only our internships but our full-time roles going forward. We know that at least half of our workforce will be remote from here on out. So it is. I know somebody mentioned earlier that it's not just the challenges that were faced by the interns, but the business as a whole. So we're just kind of embracing this and seeing how we can innovate and make it a fun experience, and it continue to increase productivity and engagement.
Great. That we're thinking about doing, as I mentioned before, we probably will be issuing equipment to everyone because we have now more time to get things shipped across the country to their location. We had stopped all of our fun events, and we tried to do some of our technical lunch and learn sessions with the students, and we gave them some gift cards to use for lunch. So we weren't sending them lunch, but we were sending them electronic gift cards to use. And I don't care what student you're talking about, if it has food associated with it, it's a plus. So make sure you put a little bit of money in your budget for food related items and swag that you can maybe send to them in a UPS delivery at some time during the summer. The other thing that I know corporate did and we continue to do is they love meeting with senior management. So we will continue doing a session with our CEO, our CIO. We had them meet with the officer over our innovation strategy area, and we see that continuing in 2021. Anything else?
Yeah, we're not really planning to make many changes for this next year. We are staying flexible, and if our teammates are working out of the office, if it's safe enough by then we're planning to have our intern teams be in the office as well. But we're just going to roll with it, and if it's the prudent thing is to have it remote, we'll do it remote. So we're just keeping that flexibility, and we've talked through that with the interns that we've made offers to, and so that they're all aware that the desire is to be here face to face. That's a big part of our company's culture. Is we really value that face to face interaction, but not at the risk of health or putting anybody in danger.
That's great. Yeah. And go ahead, Kyle.
Kyle. People will, as offices do come back online, all the remote things there'll be this transition phase where we're kind of going back into, who's hybrid? How are we hybrid? Are we all back in, people have different restrictions in their office spaces and things like that. So, a lesson that Hudl has learned many times over the years, and I'm sure other companies, if COVID created their first remote working opportunities for employees, will face this, which is if you have one person who's remote and everyone else is in office, that will be a bad experience. So if you're going to consider things like remote internships in the future, which we consider them in the context of we would never put a remote intern with a team that works in office. It would be like a remote intern might join a US squad that's already 100% remote, but you just want to be really careful about having the one-off person that's not in the same working context as their peers or the people that they would do their work with. So that's something to keep in mind. Yeah.
Great point. There was a question that came in around hiring, and I didn't have this person give me this question, but it just happens to be the next bullet point that we're going to talk about. So with each of your companies, can you talk about how many folks you have directly hired out of your internship program in 2020, if you're able to do so? And I'll start while you guys are thinking up the numbers. So we have already converted 15 of our 60 plus interns from 2020 into full-time positions, and we're on schedule to be probably just north of 20 of our interns that we're going to be converting in 2020. And we already have about 13 to 14 individuals identified next year that are getting ready to graduate in May. So this is definitely, as we've talked earlier, a talent pipeline for our company.
Yeah, I think we're looking at about 50% or so, historically is about what we've converted. And so we've got some folks that we worked with this past summer that are graduating in May. And so we're still working through finalizing that.
I just pull up some numbers between 5 and 7, I think, in the next 5 that are for sure in and 2 that are really likely. So we've got a good batch and that's just over the past few months. So good numbers there. And again, that 50% number that I cited earlier is over time. Some interns, have they come back for multiple years, or many times they go take an internship at Hudl, take an internship at Microsoft, and then we hire them full time after they graduate. So we're really proud of that number. And so that number that I gave, we'll see a lot of those interns come back to Hudl over time, even if they don't convert right after their first year out of school.
We just actually had to report on our conversion numbers yesterday, so I was just pulling those up. And right now, for the seniors that we have that are graduating between August of 2020 and May of 2021, we have converted 19 out of 37. So we're just a little over 50% there. So I will say that this has been the first year that we have made the most poignant effort to, we held something that we called the Intern draft to really showcase the seniors that we have. Because a lot of times, teams will say, we have this fantastic person on our team, but we don't have it in budget, or we just don't have enough work for them. And a lot of times that intern may fall by the wayside, fall through the cracks, just because that message wasn't being spread. So this year we did make a much stronger effort to do that. And we haven't even started making offers to our business interns yet. So we're very excited about the conversion rate specifically this year, and hope to continue to increase that in the future.
I hope all of you can pick up from what you just heard from these four companies. This is a serious pipeline for all of us, and I think it can easily be a pipeline for all of you. The one thing that I would maybe mention is the type of work that you give your intern will set you up for a higher success rate. I think everyone is experiencing high numbers because of the type of work that we assign. If we brought them in and didn't give them meaningful work, and they felt like they were just being given things that people didn't want to work on, the conversions that each of the companies just mentioned wouldn't be as high. And that was a lesson that we've learned over multiple years, and we get it. And I just would really reiterate that to all of you. Make sure you give them meaningful work, and the results will pay off. I promise you that. There was a question that came in that I thought I just mentioned to the panel here, and it's around folks that are interested in changing careers and potentially looking at folks that are, I'd call them non-traditional. I know we have run across some of these folks that have come through like Metro Community College, where they maybe were doing something totally different, and they decided to go back to get some technical education, or they might have signed up for one of the code schools that we have in the area. And then we've also had some really good luck with veterans. And there are a couple of programs that we're associated with where they come in and work for us, and it's been very beneficial. I don't know if some of you have also had any experience with some of the career changers.
So historically, our requirements for getting into the program are that you're enrolled in a 4-year degree program. And so we have had some folks that were military veterans that have come in, and they've been in that mid-30s age range, and they've worked out just great. And we've converted them to full time. This coming year, we have changed the requirement to be that you're just in school in general. So it could be potentially high school even. We haven't gone that far yet, but community college. So we're trying to reduce those barriers as much as we can.
I think talent assessment is moving in the direction of portfolio model. So for most of my career, I'm new to HR, but for most of my career, I ran design organizations and design teams. And in hiring designers, the thing that matters more than any part of your work experience is your portfolio. Like, show me the work, show me what you've created. Let me see this. I know for engineers and other people, technical minded people, like your GitHub profile or the code, the open source projects you contributed to is becoming more and more the coin of the realm of being able to show that that you're skilled and you're competent with the tools and systems that you need to be. So I can just see more and more that changing. And some of these non-traditional interns, they're going to have the body of work that they can demonstrate. Like, here's what I can do. I can show you my past work, or here's this project that I did, and maybe it was 5 or 10 years ago, but that helps hiring managers and people in talent see how those things are connected to the job or the internship that's open. So I think that's going to be even more common in the future.
Good points. One thing that I wanted to ask all of you to respond on: what would you recommend a company do to tie that person that's working remote to your company culture? Struggling a little bit with this, and so I'm as interested in hearing from each of you, and then I'll share my suggestion as well. But I'd like to have all of you go and just share what's that one thing that you think has been beneficial. Jessica, would you mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have done this on the intern side of the house, but also the full-time side of the house. But what we found is the thing that best ties people back to the culture, whether it's new associates, new interns, or people who have been here for 5-10 years, is being able to establish those one-on-one connections, whether it's with someone that you already know or not. So for interns, we put them into pods. So those are groups of 5 or 6, and they kind of are there to support each other, to answer each other's questions first. That's the first group of people they go to with like, oh, I think this is a dumb question, so I'm going to ask you guys first. We also do that with our full-time associates. With our new associates, we actually have them complete this matching assessment to match them with an associate inside the organization, to have them make an automatic friend at work who's probably outside of their department, and we'll give them somebody else to network with and to help establish their network. And then obviously for all associates, just encouraging all managers to be the one to initiate conversations with their direct reports, because we know we've all probably been in situations before where you really have a question, but you feel like you're bothering someone, especially now when you can't just walk over to their desk. You have to actually like set up a meeting with them in through Outlook, or you have to call them virtually. So we have asked all of our managers company-wide to just make a much more direct effort to reach out specifically, because it does mean a lot to hear from your supervisor and feel checked in on, and feel like someone cares. So it's all about the relationships for us.
For Kyle.
Yeah, I'll echo that. That's a lot of the things that we would try to do normally, is those one-on-one connections. So we definitely try to maintain that as much as ever. Another thing that our company is doing in general is we have a employee activity committee that throughout the year, once a month, they'll do different fun activities. Generally, they're in person, so sometimes it might involve like a golf outing or some sort of a fun engineering challenge or something. They come up with some pretty creative stuff, but they've pivoted and continued to host those types of things virtually. And so those are ways that people can connect and get a sense of the culture. And so what I do every time they announce one, I always kind of lead and model the way to the team and say, hey, I just signed up for this. I think you guys should too. Feel free. It's okay to take a break from work to have some fun. And so I think just modeling that behaviors is a key part of that.
All right, Kyle, you're up.
Responding to it, one of the questions here in the chat, we keep trying new stuff, so we are experimenting. Obviously, we've done virtual scavenger hunts, Netflix movie nights, trivia nights, lots of events to try to bring people together. Something that I'm proud of that we do is we do an intern recognition at the end of the summer, where basically, and this would include the summer interns, but also the year-round interns that weren't just part of the summer. We do value awards, nominations. We do short video recordings. We actually did a short video recording of every single intern, just like on their phone, pulling up really quickly, because you didn't get to see them all in the office. So that was a really helpful thing for our full-time community to be like, oh, I've heard so much about that person, but I haven't ever worked with them or gotten to interact with them. So you got just maybe a 1-minute quick TikTok style video recording of somebody in their room explaining how they're doing their work while they're introducing themselves. So we had a lot of creative ways that interns express themselves and who they are in a really short amount of time to get everybody. And then we chose, our based on our company values, the interns that most exemplified those during their time, and recognized them and showed them love. And that's another way that we try to make sure that you're feeling the connection to, you are a part of Hudl. You're living and breathing the values. Yeah, it might be over a shorter period of time, but you're having a huge impact on what we can do for our customers. So that was something that I didn't know how we usually done in person. I didn't know how that was going to go off remotely, but it was a really cool video. And now it's an artifact that we can share. Oftentimes you don't, I can send that to those interns and they can share it with their parents or their loved ones and friends and family. So it's pretty cool.
That's great. I know a few things that we talked about, or that we did, that really encompasses a lot of what the other panelists have mentioned already. That one-to-one connection is really important to us, and we definitely have an open door policy on any issues whatsoever. we always tell them to contact folks if they're not comfortable talking to their team members. Come to us and we can point them in the right direction and really make it sincere so that they truly can come to us, especially if it's even something that's maybe school related. They're struggling with the number of hours that they need to put in for work versus school with some of our year-round interns. And then I know we just recently sent out an article on handling working from home and different scenarios that each person may encounter, just to give them some suggestions on things to maybe look into, and to reiterate to them it's okay to ask for help, especially if you're struggling with whatever the situation may be. Another thing that we've done, we created a little competition to have the small teams work against each other, and then we give them additional gift cards at the end of the summer. Keep a little, competition, all friendly, but we tie it into our social media campaign. And so we want them to go out and talk about their experience, to plug, whatever event we had. And so that was great to see them being kind of mini brand ambassadors on behalf of the company. And then we take it a step further. I am not the person that you're going to want to see at the college career fair because I'm too old. So what we try to do is get our students that are either currently at that college or university or an alum, and we send them and they get to connect with their students. They can talk about the classes, the professors, and it works great. And so we really leverage our interns and our former interns as much as we can to be the face of our company. So all right, last topic, and I know we're running out of time, so this is going to have to be really, really quick. Any best practice that you'd be willing to share? One thing that you have had as kind of your differentiator that now I'm asking you to share so that we can all blatantly copy from each one. And I'll go first because I think I might have, no, actually, we didn't steal this one. I do steal other ideas, but the one nice thing that we have with our program, we've gone to year-round. We have a rotational component so they can move from area to area. They take advantage of our tuition reimbursement. They basically have the same benefits that I do as a full-time employee. They have accrued vacation. They have paid holidays. They get to participate in our 401k. And it's just, as we treat them as an employee, again, that ups their thought process on, do I want to consider joining mutuals? So I think if you treat your interns as an employee, you're going to have a huge leg up on the competition. Okay. Anyone else like to?
This was something that Bob touched on earlier. Just make sure that whatever they're working on is something of value that's the company sees value in, and the students will really work hard for you. And from the surveys that we've done with our interns, that seems to be the consistent feedback every year. Is they love the internship, love the project. Just make sure you continue to provide projects that are valuable to the company.
Right. We have a minute left. I want to thank the panelists. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, I was just going to say, echoing both what you all have said. Yeah, that's consideration of remote internships. Like, it's something we should also put out there of, if you can get your foot in the door, if your company culture and your organization and all the things you all mentioned, like in many cases for this highly sought after technical talent, like getting them exposed to that at your organization early is an advantage, but you have to be willing to make some trade-offs to do that. So you have to consider what trade-offs you're willing to make. But if your organization is now more able to do remote work, you should be considering how you can engage remote interns.
Great. I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning, and especially to the panelists. Really appreciate it very much being willing to participate. And I hope you all have a great rest of the conference.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I have put in the chat a link a couple of times. Please give us some feedback on this session. We really appreciate it. And thank you again to this panel. You guys did an excellent job. What a great conversation. And we're really lucky to have all of you here with us today. We are heading into our lunch hour. So please take some time to get up and move around, head to the booths, get some food, and give us some feedback. please fill out those surveys. We really appreciate any feedback that we get from all of you. Thank you, guys.